All right, so I demonstrated Fa Jing on these guys. Simple. I mean, I wasn't in a martial art environment. It was just one single vibration that sent the body flying. And as I said on the earlier recording, I altered my aim to the ground because you went straight down. What, 4 feet? Normal, well, there is no real normal for Fa Jing and Tai Chi guys because most of them don't have any. Because you got to practice your ass off. You have to be the right student, the right teacher, the right system, and then you got to really work hard at it. I practiced 6 to 10 hours a day for the first 10 years. Everybody else in the school did 3 hours a week. Oh, they'll be good eventually. No, they drop out and they never get good. So when you learn Tai Chi, you have to spend hours doing it. Then when I got my Jing in 1978 and I was sending people out to meet my master to go get demonstrated on, they're never coming back. So I said, this has to change. So when you send somebody down, whether it's into the wall or down to the ground like I do, what happens is where your mind goes, you go. So when I go, you go where I'm aiming. And it's very cool, and it's very strange. What'd you feel?
Nothing. Except I was standing up and then I was on the ground.
So it's like that second disappeared.
Yeah.
What'd you feel?
Likewise, I felt the touch of your forearm on my neck.
And
And that was it.
right, that's the explosion. Fa Jing is, so there's four Jings. Sung, Hua, Bi, and Fa. Sung is looseness. But when I say looseness, I don't mean surrender. I mean yield, like zero pressure. Sung, Hua means thickness, like jello. And then B is acceleration to make contact. But after Bijing comes Fajing, so the connection between Bijing and Fajing is seamless. So when I touched your neck and I shot the vibration out at the same time. That's why I didn't feel anything, because it's almost nothing and then it's everything, and it's one vibration. And then there's 3 kinds of Jing. There's short power, long power, and cold power. Short power is many vibrations inside the body, but no movement. So you feel it. When I do short power on somebody, they feel like, oh, what was that? Cold power is, and it spreads sideways, doesn't penetrate. And long power is that one, where I send you flying into a wall or into the ground. So I can throw somebody using my Jing, and they don't even get hurt when they hit the ground. They don't feel anything. They hit the ground like more gently than if they're putting themselves down on the ground. You have questions?
I think a question I asked earlier.
Yeah.
How long does it take to develop that type of energy?
Well, it took me, I started Tai Chi in 74, I got my Jing in 78, and I started demonstrating in 80. So, but when I was in my 3rd year, I asked my Tai Chi master, what is my equivalency to a normal practitioner? In my 3rd year, and he said, right now you're equal to a 15 and 20 year student. Now, I didn't have classmates that were like me. All I had was lazy nerds that did 3 hours a week, and every time it got hard, they stopped. But when I practiced, every time it got hard, I pushed harder. That's how I did 3 or 4 practices a day. As soon as I started to cool down, I decided it was time to practice again. So I practiced early morning, I practiced when I got to work, I practiced for lunch, I practiced when I got out, I practiced in class, and then I practiced in the alley until 2 in the morning, and it would start all over again at 6:30. 10 years. Now, you can't have a family, you can't have a wife, you can't raise kids, you can't become a lawyer, you can't do anything. People used to ask me, well, what do you do? I'm a Tai Chi student. Well, there's lots of people that are no, I'm a Tai Chi student. I was like a monk. Question? By the way, all my talk shows are just like this. You just make up a question and it goes from there.
Well, when you're first, I guess, developing your Jing, like, does it feel rough at first? Or
no. Okay, so how do you develop Jing is the question. It starts with condensing breathing, which is the first thing I teach in my Qigong practice, in my Qigong video, because I didn't learn condensing breathing until I was in Tai Chi for 1.5 years. So I realized when I opened my school that this was a problem because everybody drops out before they get to the good stuff. The first meditation in temple style is ward off, roll back, press, and push meditation. But you can't learn the meditations until you learn the forms. And you can't learn the forms until you've got foundation fundamentals with the stance being right and the breathing being right and the looseness being right. So I got ward off, roll back, press, push first at about 1 year. And then 6 months later, I got condensing breathing. But when I decided to teach Qigong in 1983, I realized if I'm going to be successful at teaching anybody anything, it has to start with condensing breathing. Now, you can find condensing breathing, part 1 and part 2, on YouTube. It's, if you Google or you check for condensing breathing climbing. Now, there are 2 other people that have condensing breathing on YouTube, but they have no idea what they're talking about, ever. They're just, let the stomach expand. No, that's not it. It's sucking energy into the stick band, the center line, and blowing it out, and sucking it in and blowing it out. So, how many years do you have to do that before you can physically get it connected to your structure? Most of the time it never happens. But because I reorganized the system, I teach Qigong first. It takes 3 hours to learn, and then you do a half-hour daily practice routine. It's never going to get longer. I'm not going to come up with a better one. It's the first thing I created when I realized people needed a foundation. And the way I was taught, no one's going to learn it. They can't do it. It's too hard. It's too slow. It's too boring. Now, I teach Tai Chi, but I only take a Tai Chi student after they've gone through my Qigong first, which takes 3 hours. So you got condensing breathing, which is sucking energy in, storing it, not losing it, sucking energy in, storing it. Now you're going to do that for how long? As long as you want. That's just the first lesson. Then you got upward, downward, inward, outward, and Tai Chi stance meditation. Upward, downward meditation is not just the Tai Chi form of upward, downward, but it's the meditation in the form. So it's called the mind training. So suck in the palms, suck up the inside the thighs, squeeze your sphincter muscles on the inhale. On the exhale, blow out the fingertips. No one's teaching this. It's a secret. Okay, then you got inward, outward, then you got Tai Chi stance. That's just lesson 1 on the video. It's simple. It's totally organized. Question?
I just need a minute to process.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, excuse me. So essentially, just like everything else, it's those building blocks, that foundation, that everything.
My Tai Chi video on YouTube is called Foundation Fundamentals Climbing. If you look for it, you'll find it. It's exactly what I teach in my Tai Chi class on Skype. And you can learn temple style Tai Chi, but you have to do the basics. And I don't mean basics like a little this and a little that. I'm talking about you follow directions word for word, and my videos, every video I've ever made, is in real time. So if I want you to do something for 17 minutes, I'm doing it with you for 17 minutes. Everybody else makes videos where they do something for 2 minutes and they expect you to go off in the corner and do it, and it never happens. You didn't learn Hapkido that way.
Correct.
Yes.
You didn't learn anything else that way. And because my first martial art teacher was world class, one of the original 12 Taekwondo masters, Mr. Shuai Chiao, he was trained by General Choi. There were 12 of them that were sent out into the world to teach Taekwondo. So basically, he was my martial art father. Now, my father taught me how to be a man, but Mr. Han taught me how to practice. So I learned how to practice in Taekwondo, but I learned what to practice when I switched to Tai Chi. And he was pretty angry at me leaving. However, my first Qigong student, before I created the system in 1983, my first Qigong student was Grandmaster Han. My second Qigong student was Dr. Ian Moon, my acupuncture teacher. This was years before I formatted for you and everybody else. These guys watched me, and Mr. Han called himself a Qigong master for the rest of his life. He was a 8th degree, 9th degree Taekwondo guy, 6th when I met him. So he was 40 and I was 21. I was a kid. But I also had dinner with him and his family 3, 4, 5 times a week. And I asked him to please treat me different than everybody else. I said, I want to be the hardest working American student you ever had. And when everybody else was taking breaks, he was holding me down. When everybody else was drinking water, he was holding me down. And he'd show me something, he'd say, now go do it 200 times. That's how I learned how to practice Tai Chi. Got a question?
I was just thinking, because you're a Chai Chi student and you did Sung Jiao.
Yeah.
Put them together. Or
I didn't put them together intentionally. I was teaching Shuai Chiao twice a week, and I was practicing 7 days a week. So what had happened was it started to, because most Tai Chi guys can't throw. I couldn't either. My throws were all kind of sloppy. There was no physical body relationship. Like, there wasn't the, I didn't have the twist. Nobody has the twist. That's not natural. You have to work at cultivating the spiral. Now, there are some Tai Chi guys that say they're spiral, but unless they're doing Shuai Chiao, they're not spiral. It's not a theory, because when you do Shuai Chiao, your body goes. So when I touch you, I didn't use, because I have Jing, I didn't have to use my ankle to catch your shin. Shuai Chiao is catching, using the physical body. It's not really a vibration because it's all practice, it's mechanical. But when you do Shuai Chiao, first of all, it's brutal. Second of all, if you're old, we're not going to be hitting the ground anymore. No. I mean, Daniel Wong's kids were doing Shuai Chiao when they were like 5 years old. Yeah, now they're 40 or 45. Now they're masters, but I remember when they were afraid of me because I was the old guy, like the old style guy. They were kids. Anyway, Tai Chi's awesome, Shuai Chiao's awesome. The blend comes from Fred Dagerberg. He called his system the blend. But when you learn Shuai Chiao and you learn Tai Chi from me, there's carryover that's natural. You're not taught how to mix them together. No, it's because it all takes place in the same body. but normal Tai Chi guys don't have the crank. So you get the crank from Shuai Chiao, and you get the jing from Tai Chi. Question?
Mr. Kleiman, obviously, like everything else, it's the dedication and what you're willing to put into it which is going to dictate the result.
Yeah, I practiced 10 hours a day for the first 10 years.
But for the average person, when you started, would you consider yourself to have been a natural athlete?
Absolutely not. I was a nerd. I was a Jewish nerd. I had no mechanics. I wasn't athletic. If I was playing baseball, I'm the one that got hit in the forehead. I jammed my thumb trying to play whatever. I hated sports. And I had a heart condition that I didn't know about until I was 60 years old when I had it repaired. I had a condition called Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. Nobody ever heard of Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. It's an alternative pathway in the heart. So when you get excited and your heart goes up to 90, my heart went up to 190. So I couldn't run. I couldn't figure out. I thought I hated cardio. No, I had a congenital heart disease that only showed up when I couldn't walk upstairs when I was 59 years old. And I had to hold the railing and go, what? I still practiced. In fact, I taught the linkage exercises outside in 90-degree weather in the parking lot by my office to my Tai Chi students. And every time I lead a class, I go, is this hard for you guys? Oh yeah, it's hard. No, not the kind of hard I'm talking about. I had the heart condition and didn't know I had the heart condition. So between the exercises being extreme and me not being able to breathe and me having my heart rush at 200 beats a minute, then I got it fixed and it was like over. I lost 35 pounds in 5 days. I had congenital heart, I had a congestive heart failure that disappeared. So what's it take to be good? Depends. You know, if you want to be great, then you have to devote your life to it. You're too old for Tai Chi to start my style of Tai Chi.
Well, like I tell people, when you want to be good, there's two factors. Mind stream and muscle memory. You do it enough that your muscle memory is there, and then you do enough muscle memory that it blends into your mind stream. That way you don't have to think about the technique. It is yours.
Except he's talking about martial art, and I'm talking about your body taking the new stuff. It's too hard on your muscles, it's too hard on your knees, it's too hard on your ankles, it's too... So, but that has nothing to do with Qigong and Neigong. You can learn Qigong in 3 hours and get it over with. And it's over. You don't rewind, you don't watch it twice, and then you do the daily practice routine. At any age. The oldest I've had, I think, was 86. In fact, recently, right before COVID hit, in the very beginning, I had a guy who'd been doing my Qigong from YouTube off clips for 10 years. He was calling me from the payphone in the halfway house. He'd been on Social Security disability since he was a little kid. And then he called me up 10 years after he started and said, I want a treatment. He wanted emotional liposuction treatment, and he wanted to buy my video. I said, who died? How'd you get the money? Well, he'd been saving $10 or $20 per check for years.
Wow.
So he came in, he got the treatment. I gave him both for $1,000 even. And he quit calling me because he's practicing. And at the same time, I had an old lady who was still working but almost retired call me up, and she wanted an appointment to get a treatment. But then she said, but I want to learn your Qigong first. I said, okay. So she bought the Qigong video. Then 2-3 weeks later, she came in for a treatment with a white cane. I go, what? How'd you get here? Well, her daughter drove her, but I didn't, you know. It was like, you're blind. So she learned Qigong from my video blind. and she wanted me to correct her qigong, and all she was doing was pitching forward a little. All I do is lean her back to put her upright. So even a blind person can learn my qigong. Any other questions?
What do you see the future of Tai Chi moving forward?
Ugh, it's disastrous. Okay, so even the famous guys, in New York, there's a very famous guy. He tried to demonstrate on me in 2008, even though I went to go see him in 1980, because I was told by my last teacher, there's only 2 people you can study with. So I went to New York City for 10 days, and he spent 2 minutes with me and threw me out. And I was sitting outside crying because I hope I found a teacher now. So I had lunch with the other Chinese master, and he said, oh, he never has good students. They're all beginners. That's why when he met me, he freaked out. So 28 years later, in a seminar sponsored by one of my classmates, I was invited, and I had to promise, don't embarrass him and don't upstage him, because I had a hard-on for this guy after what he did to me in 1980. So as soon as I saw him, I'm not going to say his name, he's famous. As soon as I saw him practicing, I went off in a corner and practiced by myself. So 3 hours into the seminar, he said, now I want to demonstrate Fa Jing. Okay, they had a mattress against the wall. So he pushed the first guy, pushed the second guy, pushed my guy, pushed the third guy, puts his hands on me to push me, and he goes flying backwards, yelling, oh my God, you have more internal power than I do. So I didn't embarrass him on purpose, but I got him anyway. So how long does it take to have that? For you guys? I don't know. How hard are you willing to work? Now, let me explain. There's Qi, Jing, and Shen, and then there's Tai Chi Jing, which is different. So Qi is the energy you feel inside yourself. So whether it's heat, whether it's vibration, whether it's smoothness, whether any of that, okay? Everybody has that. You have people go, oh, I feel my Qi. That's pointless. That's ridiculous. Then there's Jing, which is cultivated sexual energy, which means you're able to transmit the vibration outside of yourself. That's Jing. And then there's Shen. In my first book called the Qigong Bible, I describe Shen as the size of your balls in the world. So it's your level of assertiveness, your level of deservingness, your level of presence. You know, everybody is always hiding. I've never hidden ever. And then there's Tai Chi Jing, which is taking the vibration that you cultivate and store up from condensing breathing and all the other practices, and then you connect it to your bone structure. That's what takes a long, long time. That's what's rare. That's why everybody that's aware practices Tai Chi. They want their Jing. But I'm the only guy I know that got it in my generation, and I am the only survivor of my generation. I don't have classmates. They never got good. They quit or they died.
We see that in all the arts.
Yeah, but they never got good. There's difference. If they never pushed it because, oh, they started sweating and it's time to stop, or they only did their hour a day or whatever. I mean, you can't get good at anything in an hour a day. So my website is qigong.com, spelled C-H-I-K-U-N-G. Q-I-G-O-N-G is Red China. C-H-I-K-U-N-G was Taiwan. Don't forget, I created my Qigong system in 1983. Red China was unknown still. So if you text me, you can do that. I like talking on the phone. 312-446-8218. I'll repeat it. 312-446-8218. And I thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.